You don't remember House M.D. because the medicine made sense. You remember the cane, the whiteboard, the Vicodin, the stare Dr. House had. The one that said he'd already figured it out and was mostly annoyed you hadn't caught up yet. Even when he was awful, ignoring an order, humiliating a patient to their face, doing something that should have ended his career by Tuesday, the show still made you want him to keep going. In the second episode, a teenage boy comes in sick, and House decides the parents are hiding something. So he takes DNA from their coffee cups without asking, runs a secret paternity test, and gets caught. Cuddy is furious. The team thinks this is indefensible. Then the test reveals the boy was adopted. And suddenly, the thing everyone was angry about becomes the thing that moves the case forward. That's the uncomfortable part of rewatching House M.D. now. Not that Gregory House was cruel, the show told us that every week. The uncomfortable part is that the show kept making Cruelty look like genius. It didn't ask us to ignore what he did, it made Cruelty feel like the price of saving people. House suffered for who he was, but the show kept proving it needed him that way. This is House M.D. Let the show come back for a second. The team around the whiteboard, someone says lupus, House shoots it down before they finish the sentence. Foreman pushes back, Chase hedges, Cameron brings up what the patient is feeling, and House acts like she just read him a horoscope. Then someone mentions an offhand detail, something the patient said in passing, something nobody wrote down, and House goes quiet. The room shifts. The differential was wrong. The diagnosis was wrong. Something the patient said, something they lied about or hid or just forgot to mention, is the thing that opens the case. Everybody lies. That line was the show's thesis and his permission slip at the same time. Patients lied, families hid things. House's actual diagnostic method was built around the assumption that the story he was being told wasn't the real story. That made the show feel sharp. It also made every violation feel like it was going somewhere. The trick of House M.D. is that it was never really a medical drama. It was a detective show. The patient was the crime scene. The symptoms were the evidence. And the mystery could only be solved by someone willing to ignore the rules about how evidence is supposed to be gathered. The show works like a detective story with symptoms instead of clues, except that because symptoms don't have motives, the mystery keeps turning back towards people. What they hid, what they lied about, what they left out of the story they told in the ER. That design had a consequence. Every episode, the path to the diagnosis ran through a boundary, a lie exposed, a home searched, a consent ignored, a dignity set aside. The show wasn't pretending that was fine. Wilson objected, Cuddy blocked them, Cameron cried. Foreman called things assault. Patients threatened to sue. The moral objection was always there, and most of the time the person saying it was right. But the structure wasn't built around the objection. It was built around what came after. The diagnosis, the answer, the patient saved. The show wasn't asking whether House was good. It was asking whether someone like him was necessary. The pattern is simple once you see it. The show keeps turning Cruelty into genius. House crosses a line. Someone objects, the right person, clearly correctly. Cameron is distressed. Cuddy sets a limit. Wilson tries to explain him. And House keeps going anyway. He keeps pushing, keeps ordering tests that weren't approved, lying outright when he has to, breaking into houses when that's faster. Then he's right. And being right lands on the episode like a verdict, not just on the case, but on everything anyone said about him getting there. He wasn't forgiven, the show was too careful for that. But the structural question, should this keep happening? Should this person keep having access to patients? Kept getting answered the same way. The patient lived, the case closed, the board got erased. And the next episode started with a new patient. Being right didn't just solve the case, it started to feel like permission. Most of us already knew that feeling though. Not from television, but from the person everyone at work routes around, because confronting them costs more than absorbing them. House M.D. didn't invent that bargain. It just gave it a hospital, a whiteboard, and a diagnosis at the end. Stay with those coffee cups for a second. A teenage boy named Dan comes in with a neurological mystery. His parents are at the bedside, cooperative, attentive, worried. House isn't listening to them. He's watching how they answer. Something about the timeline, the way they talk around the early childhood history without quite landing anywhere. So House swabs the coffee cups after they leave the room. No conversation, no consent. Just runs the DNA and waits. Cameron pushes back hard. Foreman and Chase can't figure out how they'd really justify this to anyone. Cuddy rebukes him for ordering the test, calls it invasive, says he did it to win a bet. House keeps going. On first watch, that scene is just House being House. Impossible, invasive, smug. The team losing the argument they were right to make. Cuddy frustrated and ultimately powerless. Another week. On rewatch, the scene changes. The DNA test reveals Dan was adopted. His parents had been hiding it, not out of cruelty, but out of the kind of ordinary protection that felt like the right call, until it wasn't. Once House forces that out, a completely different medical history opens up. Measles exposure in infancy, a disease no one would have known to look for. Sure enough, the team confirms a rare brain disease linked to measles exposure. The case cracks open. This happens because House went somewhere he wasn't supposed to go. The coffee cups are still sitting on the table. The parents still don't know what he did. They just know the case finally started making sense. The answer came from the thing he wasn't supposed to do. So once you see that pattern, the show gets harder to watch. Because the show never needed to tell you House was a good person. It didn't need you to like him. It only needed to make him necessary. The patient doesn't need him to be kind. The episode doesn't need him to change. It only needs him to be right before the credits roll. That's a different deal. Most shows about difficult people work to earn your sympathy, a soft moment of vulnerability. House does almost none of that. It just makes the diagnosis land, and the diagnosis does what the sympathy is supposed to do. Wilson is why the bargain feels humane. He's not just House's friend, he's the show's argument that House is worth it. Someone brilliant and empathetic who still chooses to stay. Wilson translates he hurt someone into he is hurting, absorbing the fallout so House can keep functioning. If Wilson sees something worth staying for, maybe the deal is real. Cuddy is the boundary the show keeps needing to bend. She's usually right, setting limits for good reasons and speaking the institutional objection clearly. But the show structures things so House's diagnostic payoff almost always lands just after she's tried to stop him, coding her limits as the wrong call, even when they weren't. The team is what happens when House's worldview becomes workplace training. Cameron takes the damage emotionally and keeps coming back. Foreman absorbs the methods and starts using them himself. Chase learns to follow without asking too many questions. They're learning how much to object and when to stop. The patients are where the bargain gets tested most directly. They come in sick, secrets exposed, consent overwritten, dignity spent, and they almost always leave with the answer they came for. The patient getting better does a lot of moral cleanup. Season 3, Episode 10. A police detective who had a bad encounter with House actually follows through. He files charges, gets the hospital involved, forces real consequences. For a while, it looks like the show might hold. Cuddy suspends House from the case and cuts off his Vicodin, doing the thing the institution is supposed to do. House responds by inserting himself into the case anyway, feeding ideas through the team, and Foreman ends up helping him break into Cuddy's desk. Cameron goes back to him for help. Cuddy uses his diagnosis. Wilson tells the detective that House saves lives others can't save. The girl's case revolves because of a detail House caught from the sidelines. The legal pressure collapses, and the suspension doesn't stick because the case won't let it. The show tried to impose real structural consequences: suspension, legal threat, loss of access, and the episode dismantled them, not by exonerating House, but by making him indispensable at exactly the moment the people who removed him needed to use him. A season earlier, there's a quieter version of the same bargain. House wakes a man who's been in a vegetative state for 10 years, using amphetamines, then drives into Atlantic City to pull family history for his son's case. Cuddy objects, but it works. And Wilson, the moral counterweight, goes along with the whole thing anyway. House is part of the anti-hero era, 2004 peak television anti-heroes. But House M.D. isn't The Sopranos, it's not Breaking Bad, and the difference matters. Tony Soprano and Walter White live on cable, where the damage accumulates episode by episode. The shows make you watch what it costs to the people around them, to them. House lives inside a network procedural. Case of the week, diagnosis by the end, the board gets erased. On cable, you watch someone cross the line and then live in the consequences. On House, you watch someone cross the line and then watch the line just justify itself. The moral question, did this have to happen this way, gets answered by the diagnosis before the discomfort has time to settle. Cable anti-heroes made us watch cruelty spread. House made us watch cruelty work. That's a harder thing to shake because the show never asks you to feel bad about any of it. The question the show never asks out loud, how many people did we learn to excuse before they were good at something? Not just on TV. The mentor who made you feel genuinely small every time they pushed you towards something real. The friend you kept defending to other people because you'd seen the good version, and the good version was real. House M.D. wasn't teaching you to like Gregory House. It was teaching you a feeling. The feeling of waiting for someone to be right. Watching everyone around them bend and absorb and rationalize. The relief you feel when the diagnosis lands means the cruelty was worth it. The show isn't the villain here. You're not the villain for watching it. But the feeling is worth naming, because the feeling didn't stay in the TV. We learned to wait for the brilliant jerk to be right. We learned to feel relief when they were. And we learned that relief is a good reason to keep waiting. The show made that bargain feel good. That's why it matters. The format matters more than it looks. House M.D. premiered in 2004. Network television, not cable. Fox, not HBO. 22 episodes a season. Most weeks, the episodes ended with the diagnosis, a clear board, and some version of closure. That was House's real protection. Not Wilson, not Cuddy, not his own brilliance. The procedural kept resetting him. Whatever he'd done by Thursday, Friday was a new whiteboard, and a new patient, a new case where the violation would again feel necessary. On cable, the damage compounds. On network procedural television, the cost is always just slightly lower than the result. Not genius, format. House M.D. ended in 2012. It still circulates like it never left. Pull up a clip from season 4 for someone who's never seen the show. They'll understand it in 45 seconds. Someone is lying, House knows they're lying, he says something awful that turns out to be exactly right, and the case opens. That's not nostalgia, that's the machine still running. The moral question the show raised, how much damage are we willing to tolerate from someone who gets results, didn't age out. The clips still work because we still know this bargain. Someone causes damage, someone else points to the results, and everyone starts doing the math. We learn that math somewhere. The cane, the whiteboard, the Vicodin, the stare. Everybody lies. As younger viewers, that line sounded cold and funny and a little thrilling. Like being let in on something true about the world that most people were too polite to say. Patients lie, people hide things, the story you're being told is never the real story. Rewatching now, that line lands differently. Because the show wasn't only telling us that patients lie, it was building a world where lying, hiding, protecting, refusing was always what stood between the audience and the answer. And House was the one who saw through it. His methods became the only path to truth. The violations became necessary costs. The cruelty became part of the diagnosis. That's the bigger lie the show told. Not that House was right. He was. Not that the patients needed him. They often did. The lie was that cruelty was the cost of saving people. That if someone's brilliant enough, useful enough, wounded enough, right enough, the damage they cause becomes part of the job description. Not something to stop, something to manage. House wasn't forgiven because he was kind. He was forgiven because the show kept making him right. The patient lived, the case closed, the board got erased, and we sat there feeling grateful that he hadn't stopped. The patient lived, the permission stayed. A few weeks ago, we examined the emotional scene from Fresh Prince when his dad came back and left him again. Next, we examined Will's character arc and how he hid his pain inside of Charmed. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing, and as always, take care of yourself.